Oh gosh, I missed you.
Mm-hmm.
I know. What
Hello.
happened? This is so lovely.
Mm-hmm. Good
Scano, good.
evening, everyone. It's amazing to see
I'm
everybody
selling
here.
calendars. I'm selling calendars, by the way.
Are they? Are they pictures of you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like by the month?
Every month.
Right on.
January is a fireman outfit.
Good thing.
This is what happens in the back room, and we can't turn it off until we're ready to go live, and it still continues even though we're live now.
I know. We're like, is it 7 o'clock yet? Is it time? Oh, we missed that. So it's wonderful. It's nice to see everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really slick
Yes.
good.
back your hair.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Well, I had to
Mm-hmm.
use bear grease to hold it down. It was dry. So
Go like this down.
Uh,
uh,
nice to see you all. So I'm having a late dinner. So I'm gonna step out and bring you with me in the kitchen and be in the back room.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of you can catch up and talk about remember whens and lift our spirits and prepare us for this season,
Mm-hmm.
that so many people are. I think this time of year is different because so many people feel so many different ways about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I had messages today from people saying, are they coming tonight? Are they going to be talking tonight and visiting? So, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
really great to see everyone.
It is, and I had my dinner early, so my tea is steeping, so I can have tea with Doda. So I'm really excited to be here and listen to both you and Renee and Neil. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Well, thank you, ladies. We've been. I heard from other people too. They said we've been waiting. When are you coming on? And I said, I'm trying to get on. I said, but we have to wait for that time. And they said, darn. So we're just like Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus. You have to wait, and you have to be good,
So
right, Neil?
cute.
You have to be good because you've been watching him, the man from the north.
Uh,
yeah, it's been a crazy month and a half for me, really, and being on Zoom and trying to put everything in perspective and trying to do the things I'm trying to do, especially for my age. Um, it seems like um, it seems like things are really slowing down for me. I don't know. I don't know if it's the body or the mind or the spirit. And I think about that once in a while. And especially wintertime. I maybe that old teachings that we have about winter
Yeah.
is maybe catching up with me, and that that memory chip in the back of your head telling you to, okay, it's time for you to stop, slow down, and just kind of sit back and relax for a while. And when wintertime came here on the island, it was we had a lot of fun actually. And those stories about trudging through the 10 feet of snow uphill barefoot. And basically, we that's what we used to do going to school here when we were young. That we had to make our own trail to get to school because we didn't have the equipment really to make the roadways. But
That's
we
true.
know this is one of the things that we learned, that we had to make do with what we had, and that was really good, and I really enjoyed that. And for me, a lot of the memories of growing up are starting to come back again. There are things I remember, and I don't know, maybe that's that switch around now. I've come to that point where my other part is coming back. Memories of my younger days, and as I get older, and my mind begins to think that way. And when I think about it, I think about that life that we were given, and what did I do with my life, and how did I present myself to this life, and all those things. And I get angry with myself sometimes when I think about a lot of those things that I did, and a lot of the things I did were against my mother's wishes, and the mother I respected, and of course the aunties and uncles as well. I'll be celebrating my 39th year of sobriety, no, 38th year of sobriety at the end of this month, December 31st. At 11:45 is when I had my last drink.
Wow.
And so during that time, from that dark, when I started drinking here and then I ended up over here, that was the dark point in my life right there. Oh, maybe balance these off here. I can't balance things on the screen. Ooh, I live on an island, so it's a little wavy here today. Look, ooh. But so that was my dark part right there. It was not something that I enjoyed. When I think about those things of what I could have become.
Mm-hmm.
What was it what did I really wanted to do in my life? Well, how did I respect my life? And back then, I didn't really, I guess I didn't really know the teachings around life then, because we never grew up with those teachings. It's not until I sobered up that I started looking at life itself, and I saw life come into this world, and those are my daughters, both of them. And I remember when my first daughter was born, and my wife would, she says, "Are you coming in with me? I'd like you to come in with me." And I thought, "Oh, no, I don't think I can do that," I said. But then I started thinking about her, and I started thinking about that. It takes two people to bring a child into this world with the help of our Creator. And finally, I wish I had known what I know now back then.
True.
And that life, when finally I agreed with her, and I said, "Okay, well, I'll go in with you." Oh, I could see the joy in her eyes, the happiness, and oh, she was so happy. I made her happy, and and so we went to the hospital, to the delivery room, and they brought lunch. But my wife Peg, she didn't. "I don't want to eat," she said. "I'm not hungry." I said, "I'll eat it." Here I am eating on the other side of the room while she's in pain. Oh man, that nurse, that nurse, she's looking at me. She says, "You're eating while she's in pain?" Well, I don't know what to do. I said, "This is my first time doing this." "Oh, it's all right." I could hear my wife say, "It's all right. He's hungry. He hasn't eaten yet." So, oh, okay. So the time came when we ready to go into the delivery room, and so the nurses came over and they helped me put on this paper outfit, or whatever that thing is called, the gowns, I guess. And I wear the white hat, and so I walk into the room like this. "Okay, where's my patient?"
Poor Peggy.
Poor Peggy. Oh man, she says, "Stop it!" She's getting angry with me because the baby's coming in, and for the light, and then finally I settled down. I stopped, and then as I was going into the room, I don't know. I still remember what I saw. I seen the doctor, it's two nurses, and then my wife. I came into the room. It's kind of like an orange light, or some sort of light was shining down just on them. It wasn't that operating light they had. It was another different type of light, but it came from the ceiling. Because I looked up, I didn't know what that was, and I didn't question it. So I went beside my wife and I held her hands, and the baby was coming. And I watched the baby come, and I saw life come. I saw life come into this world, and something that I never thought I'd ever experience. And that fear, I guess, the fear of the pain she was going through as the baby was coming. And They had to do surgery on my hands because they had to straighten out all the fingers because my wife squeezed them crazily. And and I seen my daughter, my firstborn, come, and that life, that life that Creator gave, blew that spirit into that shell, her shell, her getting ready to come into this world, and that was really something when I finally held my baby, my first child. Oh, my very first child, and oh, looking at her, how beautiful she was, and again, and then I'm glad I'm glad I sobered up. Otherwise, if I had to just stayed drinking, I would have lost my girlfriend, who became my wife. I would have lost her. I would have lost her because of that stupidity of me drinking.
Mm.
And and that's what gets me angry sometimes too. If I had just sobered up even probably 10, 15 years before that, or even earlier, if I hadn't have drank, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But now today when I think back on it and giving that chance to do something with my life and knowing what life is all about, that sacredness that when I found out from my teachers and that about the fire within, and that fire within is that heartbeat, the fire in that heart, and burns all the time. It burns steady. It never stops unless Creator decides, okay, your fire is about to stop. Oh, wait a minute, I got to go golfing. Wait for me, Creator. I'll be right back. No.
In the snow.
In the snow, yeah, yeah. But but again, when I talk about life, and I remember those times of growing up and the fun we used to have, and some of the times that the aunties and uncles or the uncles would take us out and the horse-drawn wagons, or I mean those sleighs they used to have. We used to go for rides with my dad. He used to have a couple of horses as well, and he'd hook everybody up and we'd go for a ride. And it was something nice. It was something beautiful. And sometimes I think back and reflect on those, and I think about, oh darn, why did I ever get involved in the booze? And today, with my anniversary of sobriety coming up at the end of this month, December 31st at quarter to 12, I'll reflect back on that day when I promised my wife that I would quit drinking because and and that's the promise I still kept, even after she passed away. There was times when I thought of what I wanted to go back and drink after she passed because that loneliness was so overwhelming. That loneliness was so overwhelming that I knew where the booze was. It wasn't hard for me to go and do that. But
Mm-hmm.
that memory of that promises came right back, and I haven't drank since I promised her that I wouldn't quit drinking. I would quit drinking. And then so in 2023 I'll be celebrating my 40th year of sobriety, and I intend to celebrate, not drinking. I'm actually going to invite a few people over and have them partake in a meal with me, the ones that supported me all these times through my sobriety, because I really believe that this life that we have is, everybody says it, that's not our life. That life
Yeah.
belongs to our Creator. Creator gave us
Mm-hmm.
this life. Creator gave us this path. Creator gave us all those things that we need to exist upon Mother Earth. There was nothing that He left out. This beast that we're battling now, this COVID beast. When I think about that, I get angry at some of the people when they, are not following instructions to get rid of the beast. Like always say, quit feeding the beast and it'll go away. But it seems like people are just keep on feeding that beast. Then I get worried because I have my grandchildren, I have my great grandchildren, and I wonder, are they going to get sick because of this beast? Because the teaching I received on life is that life is so sacred. Life is all about our working together to keep that life going as far as we can go. when I look at when I look at my grandchildren, when I actually my grandson came over the other night, spent the day with us because the daycare was closed. Not too often he'll come over and spend the day, but he always comes up to my room, climbs up on my bed, and him and I watch his show. He's got to watch his show. Because he's the boss, he's the boss, the little guy. And we sit there and we watch, and it was his nap time. That's what it was. It was his nap time. So I took his little phone away from him, and I said, okay, my boy. I said, it's time for you to get some sleep, have nap time. No, no, he kept saying. I said, yes, yes. Then he looked at me, kind of smiled, and rolled over a little bit. And the next thing I know, he was sound asleep, and I watched him. And I watched him sleep. And the beauty of the creation, creation of the body, and the beauty of the child, the spirit within, brings back those memories of growing up. And then I think about the children who don't have that pleasure of laying down with their papa or their grandfather or grandmother. And that really gets me sometimes, and but then I think about, then I said to Peg, I said, oh man, that's our little boy. He was, I still talk to my wife once in a while. That's my little boy. That's our little boy, I said. And she probably would have fawned over that guy like crazy, It's just like me. When I hear the girls kind of scolding the kids, those young ones, my two youngest grandchildren, they come up to my bedroom. They say, Mommy yelling at me, Papa. So I yelled out, quit yelling at them. And then all of a sudden they climb into my bed. They're protected by me. And, and I think about that. And I think about how these little ones are, we look after them. We have to look after them because we're the ones they look up to. But I tell my grandson too, every once in a while, you got to stop what you're doing. You better do things properly, or you won't sleep on Papa's bed. My bed, he says. He's taken over. My grandchildren
Yes.
have taken over. They've taken over everything, And but life, though, life is so precious, and so precious. And when I think about all the children that never made it home, I get angry. And then I think about, I said, I think about them once in a while too, as well, because we have everything now, but they didn't. So we have to pick up our paces and our minds together to pray for them, to let them know that we do still care for them, even though they're not here anymore. Creator's holding them now. Creator's got them beside him. That's where they are. And then I think about of all the things that happened over the years for me, and I still kick myself sometimes. Like I said at the beginning, that I still kick myself sometimes about what I've done, what I've said to people, and because that was the alcohol, the devil, the bad spirit in the bottle, the devil in the bottle, they used to call it. And it's difficult to think about stuff what you done, and but you have to, I think one of the elders used to say, sometimes we have to embrace our past in order to move forward.
Mhm.
We have to embrace our past in order to move forward. And that's what I think about too, is embracing. But what I miss the most is that person to person thing of getting together again. And I always check the numbers. If I want to go somewhere, like I went to Hamilton for the weekend, probably about a month ago, and I checked the numbers there. They were not too bad. They were pretty good. And then now I wanted to go to Sudbury for the weekend. Their numbers were high, and I said, no, I'm not going to go. Even though I got vaccinated, I got my vaccination, 2 shots, and then I got my. Actually, for the first time in my life, I've received my flu shots, my flu shot for the very first time, because I asked about it. I asked a friend of mine. I said, "What do you think about those flu shots?" He said, "How old are you, Neil?" I said, "Well, I told him my age." I said, I'm 25. And no, so I told him I'm 72. He says, well, think about it. Think about what I'm going to tell you. He said, okay. So I started talking. He says, as we get older, he says, our immune systems begins to get what you call weaker. He says at that age, he said maybe you need to think a little bit more about doing that because how far you want to go in life. I don't know, but again, that's up to you. He said. Then I thought about the immune system. Yes, it's starting to weaken. But before I did all that, before I took my two vaccines, I took my own medicine first. I took my own medicine first, and I made my tea, and I drank that. I drank, I think, 2 cups in the morning, one in that night, and then two. Did that for every other day till my first vaccination shot came, and I never felt a thing. All this hoopla about people getting. Maybe people do get sick. I'm not going to deny that, but everybody was afraid of this vaccine, and I thought to myself, "Not that, what am I afraid of? Nothing. I just want to protect myself so I can continue on with helping other people if I can." And I took that first shot and nothing happened. I never got sick like everybody was saying. You're going to get sick. I said, well, we'll see what happens. So the second shot came. I did the same thing. Took the medicine, made my tea, drank that again, and same thing. Nothing happened. And then one of the nurses, I said, can I get my third shot now too? She said, no, you got to wait. We don't even know if that's coming, she said. She says, why? Well, look what happened. It made me happier. It made me more handsomer. Everybody in the room started laughing. And I kind of broke, what do you call it? Like, I kind of broke the ice, basically, is what I did. And everybody just laughed. So I started doing what I like to do is make people laugh during that time when we were getting our vaccines and, having fun. And it made it a lot easier. And then, of course, I was the guy who did the smudging of the building that we were in when we got our second shots and stuff. And 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 then I think about that, and I think about all that. Maybe this is the reason why I need to take these. And so I did. I took my first flu shot ever. My wife was always telling me, honey, honey, you need to get your flu shot. You're not getting any younger. She always made it a point. You're not getting any younger. And she'd always go. She'd always go. And then, but then, we finally I got it done. And again, I felt good. Then I got my booster. I even felt better. That was the third one to make me more handsomer.
I'm lifting my feet up.
And so, again, so when I think about things and about this life, I I gotta have fun in it. I have to have fun, but I also gotta let people know that in order to defeat the beast, we gotta quit feeding it, and that's the only way this thing's gonna end. It's the only way this thing's gonna end because the elders always talk about stuff like this. And I remember being told one time that I heard it from one of the elders. He said that he heard this teaching before as well. He said from my elders. He said, and he said that when the elders spoke a long time ago, they said that things are going to start happening, and that we're going to have to remind ourselves that when these prophecies that they had, those prophecies are now here. They said something's going to happen to us. Look what happened in the early 1900s with the Spanish flu. They talked about that way before my time, and it happened. They said another one is coming. something else is going to happen. And sure enough, look what happened. And so that's why I say that, you know, when I talk about the elders and their prophecies that they're coming true, you know, like the fires, they talked about those fires as well, all those fires that are happening. And they talked about the water. The water is going to rise and cause a lot of damage to the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, and one of the elders actually said, that's because people are not listening anymore. Mother Nature, Mother Earth, and Creator, he says, are going to gang up on us. And but, you know, when he talked about that, when they talk about those things, a lot of people don't understand that. And those are the teachings that we've received. And I'm sure my good friend Renee has also heard those things too, those prophecies from her nation, from their nation, like we do from our nation. Every nation's got those prophecies, and they're all the same. They're all telling us what our future is going to look like. When I talk about that medicine, when I said I take my medicine before I took the vaccine, well, elders used to say that we need to use the Western medicines now because our medicines are not going to be strong enough to take on the next disease or the next sickness that's coming. And that's what they said. And sure enough, our medicines aren't really strong enough. So we need that other medicine to help us get through this life, or how far we're going, right? You know, I'm pretty amazed at some of the elders that you know, that talk about all these things and how true what they say is very true. We have to look at life from a different perspective. He said we cannot look at life through materialistic things. We have to look at it the way it was given to us. That walk we left when our Creator signed when we left to come to the earth. And you know, at my age, you know, I'm still enjoying my life. I give thanks once in a while to my Creator for allowing me to wake up in the morning. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I lay there and I open my eyes at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, "Oh my goodness, what time is it?" Look at my clock at 4 o'clock. Usually I'd be waking up at 5, but somebody changed the time on me. And when I see those things, and then I think about that also, that sacred fire, sacred fire. And I remember a lot of the fires that we used to have outside my house here before my wife passed away. We'd sit out there and watch for the fire, or we did, you know, marshmallow with the kids and my two youngest girls, and sit out there, get bombarded by 2 million mosquitoes, but we'd still sit out there and watch the fire because the fire was so relaxing. You didn't feel those mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Because the fire drew your attention to the spirit of the fire. And so those are the remember wins I have. My wife and I, or she'd say, "You want to go out and make a fire, hon?" Okay. And we'd go out and maybe get some wieners and some buns and have a little wiener roast with the girls, with the grandchildren, the ones the ones we had before my wife passed. And we would sit out there and we'd enjoy that day. For me, as Christmas draws closer, and the sadness starts to come, and doing things alone now for Christmas for my grandchildren is hard. It's hard because when my wife and I used to go out, we used to always go out, and one day we'd go do this, and then another day we'd wait 2 days and go out again, and back and forth like that. And then she'd say, "What are we going to have for turkey dinner?" "I don't know, turkey maybe?" I said. She looks at me, she bursts out laughing. Did I just say that? She says, yeah, you just said that. I said, what we would have for turkey dinner. And and that's the part I miss. Her craziness. And craziness. And we have a beautiful dinner. I'd help. I do, of course, I do the prepping. That means I cut up all the veggies for her and just put them in the pots they're going to be cooked in. Now it's different. Life is different for me, but I'll still go through the process of getting my grandchildren their little gifts, watch them, open them up if I can, and see the faces on these children, because that's what life is all about. You have children, you bring them into this world, you got to help look after them.
Mm.
You see the grandchildren being born, and they call you Papa. It makes your heart even beat stronger because you have to stay strong for them. And that's the beauty of it. Remembering, remembering our children, remembering where we came from. If it wasn't for those teachers, I wouldn't, I don't think I'd be here. If it wasn't for the people that supported me through all that time that I stay sober. And then I met a lot of people with my wife. I think Renee, you met my wife before you met me, I believe.
Yes, I did. We were teenagers.
And
She was younger, though. She was younger.
and that's what makes me really happy, because I'm glad I met my wife. I'm glad I married her. I'm glad I had 2 kids with her. But I still get mad at myself for not really taking good care of her like a real man should.
Mm-hmm.
And I still kick myself. What I did, that was me. It was nobody else did that but me. After she passed away, and I don't know if I told you this, but I got on my knees beside my bed and I prayed. I talked to Creator, and I talked to my Peggy, and I said to her, when I arrive in the spirit world, I want to ask Creator if I can remarry you again.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I felt better. I felt good. And those are the things I remember as Christmas gets closer and closer. And I think about not doing Christmas next year. Maybe I'm just going to do what I have to do, get the gifts for the kids, and just take off somewhere, go spend Christmas somewhere. Maybe Niagara Falls, a couple of nights, or somewhere. But again, that's just the way life is, right? It throws you curves along the path.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up, I think I got thrown that curve, the devil in the bottle. I got thrown that curve. And then that was the longest time of drinking for 24 years. That's a long time.
Wow.
Mind you, I started off slow, but I got heavy into it by the time I was 16 years old. By the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was drinking 8 days a week. There's times I don't remember what I did till somebody came to my house and yelled at me. I don't know. And they'd say, don't you remember? I said, no, I don't remember a thing. But I'm here.
That's true.
I'm here, and there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
I had to slip the Creator $20 to keep me alive.
Back in the day, it was a lot.
$20 was a lot of money back in the day. You're right. You could buy 40 bags of bubble gum, 2 pop, Lucky Elephant popcorn. Remember those?
Yeah.
Lucky Elephant popcorn. Oh my gosh, some of that stuff. And then, but again, but that's just the way things are for me in life. I really appreciate it, and I wish other people would appreciate life as well. Start
Mm-hmm.
doing the things that we were destined to do, to help each other again. Get rid of the beast. Let's quit feeding that beast. Let's get rid of the beast. Let's get on with life, because life is not guaranteed. Remember that. Life is not guaranteed. I shall now pass it over to my good friend, my compadreette. Take her away, my friend.
All right. I like how you started with remembering birth. Remember birth. It plays a very important role. Our children love to hear their birth stories. And that's what I was always told, to tell their birth stories, no matter how old they get. It plays a very important role. And so it just seems I was reliving that a couple of days ago because my son came over to fix I got a brighter light now. Did you notice that? He came over and he fixed my light, and now my son is, I was looking at him, it was just like a miracle. I carried this one, and now he's 6 feet tall, and now he has to put glasses on to look at things, and now he's got a beard, and I go, where did my baby go? He is now a man. And I'm looking at him and I says, I was just remembering how I love winter. And my children were born in the winter. Both of my son and my daughter were born in the winter. And it was, to me, winter was a time of going within and holding my babies within was just like, wow, I wonder how Mother Earth feels holding that new seed for life. And I always remember my son moving inside me. Oh, and I was just talking about that to someone. I said, I was talking to some young mothers, and I was saying how my son knew when I had enough to eat, he'd literally use his feet and push me away from the tip of my stomach. And it was just amazing. And he amazed me every month that I was getting growing with him. It was like I knew when he was conceived. I knew the moment, and I knew his gender. And I because my grandma would always say, you don't take their picture because you might weaken their system. And she said, there's going to come a time when all the people are going to forget and not trust their intuition, and they want to have their babies pictures before. And I always wonder what she meant by that. And then when I went to the big hospitals, I saw that the baby, they're x-raying the mothers, and I went, wow, my grandma talked about that. And so I really thought about that. I said, I'm glad I never got his picture taken when he was in my womb, because I might have hindered something. And that's what the old people talk about, being mindful that this is the early development stage, and being under that light they talked about. They knew these things, and it just blew me away, because when I said, how did my grandma know all this? Because she was in the country, she was far away from the big cities, but she knew these things. And she says, and you don't take your baby's picture before he's born, because you're going to stop a lot of things. And so I thought about that. How did she know? And she told me the things to do, because she said a lot of us women had our babies at home. And that gave me strength, because when we moved to the big city, you're just a country mouse, country bumpkin, and you move to the big city, and there's so many people there, and you look at the hospitals, everything's it's a different world. And so when I went into that new world, and I had to find a new doctor, I had to find new things like that. But my grandma says, you're going to have to take care of yourself. You know what your baby needs. And so she said, you need to eat good food. Because, she says, you don't want your child going to a hospital all the time. How did she know these? How did they know these things? And it's amazing because her directions helped me to have a healthy baby. And I didn't need for the and her instructions and my mother's instruction, and me being the oldest, having that experience, seeing many of my I when I think of Christmas, I have to laugh because I tell everybody I never got a doll. I never got a doll when I was growing up. I had the real ones, the real dolls. I had all my brothers and sisters that I would be changing and holding and rocking and putting them to sleep. And then I look at my brothers and my sisters, how these little ones were also my children. They prepared me for me to have my son and my daughter. And when I give that birth, I was so grateful my grandma taught me and my mom, and they teaching me about what to do, what I need to do. And they called them old wives' tale. Well, everything about them was intelligence, wisdom. And you know what? Those doctors and nurses and midwifery, and they're all coming and they're knocking on my door and they're asking me questions. They want to know what our grandmothers know. They want to know these things, how to have healthy babies. In fact, I just did one last Saturday night. A young person from a young woman that was going to be doing a presentation on birthing. And so I spent a couple hours with her, and I said, I could spend 4 hours or more with you, but you need to go. You need to get some rest. And I need to get rest. So I'm so grateful for how how our women, they believed in the medicines that they had. And that's what I know. I heard the same story that there's going to be a lot of sickness and people are going to forget. And I asked, how can they forget? She says, well, there's going to come a change, a big change. And the people are going to go over this side. She says, you be careful. The Creator still has provided these things for us. And she says, some people will say, just like we just heard, that they will say our medicine is no good no more. It is because they lost that faith in them. And so I'm so grateful. My grandma says, that medicine will help you. As long as you two are very important to each other. And it's just as important as you are. And when you rely on each other, it's just like you and Peggy relationship. That's how strong it is, that bond between you and that medicine. And I was very grateful because that medicine that grandma had taught me to eat and everything else, taught me all the foods. She said that food is almost like your partner, your companion. And she says, it's going to help you. And that is a blessing because I wasn't blessed to have a partner as long as you had a partner. So I had to walk my path alone. And it was a journey that if it wasn't for the plants and the medicines, I would have given up a long time ago. I would have given up. They prepared me. All those, as they say, those medicines, and I had my babies, my children, and it was just like I knew what I had to do. I had to speak to my children to tell them beforehand, before they were born. I had to put in that life energy into them, and I had to speak to them. And that's how my grandma said, "You talk to the little one that's you're carrying, and tell that little one you have great plans. You're going to be a speaker. You're going to be a singer. You're going to be a dancer. You're going to be a great help in the community." And she said, "Whatever you take in your mind, the little one will absorb what you got." And so she said, "Use your mind in a good way." I was very grateful for my grandmothers because I was opposite of you. My grandma would always say, "Yeah, no, you don't touch that." And so I had my children without alcohol. I was very, and so this is why we're together, is to show how we can walk together. We fall and we get back up. And we each have a life that plays a very important role for others that are coming behind us. Remember when. And this is very important to talk about, is remember when. And our stories start when our birthing, because this is how we got our name, when we knew our birthing, our name, what we did, what happened, what was happened to the natural world when we were born. So both my children were born in the wintertime, and my son, he is a good worker. He has pride in his work because he was taught by his grandpa. He was taught by his uncles. He was taught by the men in our family how to have that pride. And that's what my grandpa taught us, to have that pride. Even when he fell, from grace, as you say, because when he lost his sister, he really lost his spirit. And he had gone that way. But he also knew that the medicines could help him. And so I almost lost him. I mean, he almost left shortly after my firstborn. I mean, my baby. And so these medicines have helped me to get through all these trials and these testings. Because I remember when my grandma talked about them. I remember when my uncle talked about these things and say, "You're going to have rough times. You're going to go through ups and downs in your life. And always know that you're going to have someone there to help you." Do you remember? I often talked about this too. How did we get home sometimes? Who brought us home? And it seemed that we got home, and it was amazing. We have those guardian beings, and they're always with us. You know, we were told this is how my grandma explained, it comes because man forgets how to take care of himself. Everything of our culture talks about self-care. Self-care. That's why the Ganaligoa, the great law, came. That's why we had creation story, because it talked about, can you imagine if that woman stayed in her trauma when she was in great loss? She was traumatized because she was without her partner. And you heard Neil's story, how lost he was. She was lost without her family, her community, everything. But you know what? The animals came and they rescued her. And they do that to this very day. We're very lucky that they're still following their instructions. And the next thing that helps us is that water. That water. That water is that renewal of our life again. That's why our water breaks. And that is that good medicine. Because whenever we're feeling trouble, take a cold shower. Boy, that'll bring life back to you. Taking that cold shower is just like a reborn earth, waking every cell in your body. So you can imagine what this woman went through, being all alone. And I'm glad I had that story because it helped me to get through and stand alone, to stand and raise my children and do that in a way that they had a roof over their head, they had food, they had clothing, and most of all, they had my tears. I was not, I would cry because being a mother, it was tough in those times. But I let them know that when I cried, I was doing what was natural. So don't be afraid to cry because I taught mine. I was never ashamed. I didn't say, "Oh, I got to be strong for you," because that's what my mother said to me and to us. I can't cry. I gotta, I gotta be strong. And I said, Mom, you don't have to be that strong. You gotta feel it. I was grateful that all my grandmas and my aunties, they shared a lot because I was the firstborn of both babies. My mother was a baby, my father was a baby. And so I got to spend time with those aunties and those my uncles. It was like, remember, I'm going to tell you this. Remember this. I want you to don't you forget this. Remember this. And 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 that's every time we went someplace, Grandma would say, "Now this is who you're related to, and this is how you're related. Now I want you to remember that." And so anytime now, remembering when my grandma says remember, because it taught me how to connect to my family that we all had moved away. We all went to different places of Turtle Island. And so I have family all over and I'm finding them. And so it is because they say, remember when. Remember when your grandma said this? How many of you say, "Oh, I only wish I sat there and listened more"? Well, she still talks to you. She talks to you in your dreams. She still leaves clues for you. And she'll whisper in somebody else's ear and they'll go and they'll talk to you and they'll say, do you remember? Right? So we look at these things that is unfolding because they said, remember when we had everyone going to the sanatorium? Remember when there was much sickness? Remember when there was shutdown? Remember when we couldn't leave the reserve? So we should already know these feelings because it was almost like to prepare us for this time. Remember when we had to have passes to leave the reserve? Now we have to have passes to get back on the reserve. So you see, they often talked about that it's going to come because people are going to forget. They're going to forget how to remember their relationship. And most of all, they're going to forget how to take care of themselves. And Grandma says, when you are a young woman, you start taking care of yourself. You strengthen your body so that you're able to do things when you're in your 70s and 80s and 90s. That means not laying around and complaining. It means being in ceremony, doing. And that's what people have forgot to be doing, is being in ceremony, Remember when you played? How many adults still play? Well, my parents, we played. We used to play ante over. Did you play that game?
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
We used to play Red Rover, Red Rover. That
I remember
it was
that.
it was a family event. It was to. I think we didn't need a TV because my dad was very creative. My mom was creative, and we did these things. And to this very day, my siblings are my sisters are well known to be creative. You should see our family reunions. It is hilarious because remember when our dad did this, remember when our mom did this. And so it was a time when oh my gosh, playing that Red Rover, we'd be. I think that's why we had so many brothers and sisters, so we could have two teams. It was Christmas. I mean, wintertime. We had a small house, and it just seemed like everybody always came to our house. And my dad would say, "Well, the first 12 I'm feeding. After that, you got to fend for yourselves, but don't close your eyes." So even our hard times, we laugh today, and we all say, "Oh, remember when?" Remember when we had that dad brought home the muskrat for our meal one time, and it was just so skinny we felt ashamed to eat it because because it was so skinny, and we didn't know if we didn't want to fight over it. Oh, so there was always remember when. And when we get together now, those younger ones will say, "Tell us about remember when." Remember when they did this? And then we'd tell them, "Oh, it was so cold." I said, my brother would say, "Yeah, we had cracker box shoes." You see, even at the time being without, we didn't think ourselves as being poor because we had humor. We had humor that got us through all these trials and testings. Remember when you had to walk through all this snow and you just all you had to do is just lay over like this because the snow was so deep. You didn't really have. And they'd go, "Oh, you're telling stories." We said, "No." Remember when winter was here and we never had a Christmas tree? It was Dad was working away, and he we somehow we didn't have a tree. So being the oldest, I had to improvise. I didn't want my brothers and sisters not growing up without remembering this Christmas. So I said, "I got my chalks. Let's draw on the wall." We drew a Christmas tree, and I said, "Now I want you to decorate it." So all of them, they drew their bulbs and everything else. So we decorate that tree on the wall. So so you see, we didn't have a lot of things. We only got one present because it showed equal. One present. It had to be what we really wanted. And we had a stocking. We made sure our stocking was clean because my uncle would be teasing us about our socks that we would hang. He says, because you don't want Santa turning his nose up and not giving you any candy or apples. He said, so make sure your socks are clean. So there were times when you would think you're a lot of people are going on a lot of stress because they're thinking, "Oh, what I can do for my children, I can't go that place." There's other things you can give them that really, really is important to them. Write their birth stories. One year I was so hard times, but I dug in my all my pictures, and I created a gift for my son. I made him two big pictures, and I cut up made him a family. Well, I guess you call it like a family tree. I put in his dad's family, his grandpa and his grandma, and all those pictures, his aunties and uncles, and I wrapped that one up. Then I made another one, and I made one of my mother and father, and pictures of him and them, and give that to him. And you know what? He has that in his bedroom. He hangs that up, and that's what I taught my granddaughter too. I said, there's going to be times when you're not going to have a lot of money. Make something that really, really, that you know will be important. What did she do? Every year now, don't stress yourself out. She makes me things that has a meaning, has a story to it, so that I remember that time. So she's got a family tree. She's done different things to help me to remember when. So she's got help me to remember all my grandchildren and that. So, and then she also has, she created this little memory box. In that memory box is a bench, and it's like a city light by the bench, and she's got a candle there, and it says, "I will come to visit," and she made that for me to symbolize her mom, because her mom has been gone well over 34 years now. So she made that for me. So don't. I know a lot of people are worried about money, stressing themselves, and getting into a real debt. Just remember when there will be times, and those times will be the most memorable times, because they will be a time when you improvise, you created something, you use your love, you use that energy to create something. I love it now. My nieces, my granddaughter, this is what they make now. Because, store bought and things, they end up in the dump site, landfill, because they look at it, they play with it, and it goes in the corner, and they don't play with it anymore, maybe a week or so. So we have to think about what's the true meaning of Christmas. Remember when it was filled with a lot of love, a gift that you made from your heart, a gift that even my granddaughters one year, what they did for me, they cut out cardboards, and they made me free pass to go to any theater in Toronto. I said, "Oh, can I refund this now?" So be creative. Be creative, and enjoy this time that's coming, because you have the greatest gift that you can ever give any child, any person, and that is your love. That is your love. So remember, you're not without. Remember, we need to teach our children not to be materialistic people, because this is why the pandemic came. Because what is virus created out of? A lot of virus, because it's landfill, garbage, how people became very wasteful. It is a virus because people have forgotten, remembering how winter comes. Remember, winter comes for a reason. The snow comes for a reason. And so all these things help us to accept. Accept. I know the first Christmas without a loved one is very hard. But you need to continue on because they're with you. That's why you say, "Oh, I remember when they opened their present." It brings back that medicine that you need. So this year, I'm going to cry because I'm going to remember my brother. And I'm going to laugh because I'm going to talk about the times when we were in the snow. I'm going to talk about the times the things we had, because that's going to bring that love back into me and fill that void. So remembering when is so important. It is the best medicine for us. And you know what? They're right here with us. They're here with us. Peggy and my brother and my grandpa, our grandpas and our grandmas, they're all sitting here listening too. And I know my daughter's saying, "Oh, Ma, keep quiet. Don't tell them that."
Uh,
Your turn.
oh man, yeah. Again, I go back to what Renee was saying. My good friend here, what she was saying about you got to use your ingenuity for Christmas.
Yeah.
You really do. You got to use your ingenuity for everything, really.
Yeah.
Because again, like we live in a materialistic world,
Yeah.
and we, for some reason or other, we've grown attached to those.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, when a couple of maybe a few years before my wife passed away, maybe I used to go golfing, and when my wife let me go golfing, and and I was on the boat one time, and there were some ladies on there, and they kind of got a little bit, how do I say this, snarky. I'll call it snarky. And they said to me, "Are you going golfing again? Boy, that's a waste of money." They said to me, right on it. This is on the boat. And finally, no, I don't think it's a waste of money. I said, I walk, I have enjoyed myself. It's fresh air. I said, I don't smoke, I don't drink. And then finally I asked them, "Where are you guys going?" "Now we're going to bingo, trying to win some money." "Oh, really?" I said, I want. So I said to them, "Well, isn't that a waste of money too? Shouldn't you be buying something that you need for your house?" I said. They never said any more to me again on the boat, because what I said to them was exactly the truth. And because for me, yeah, I buy a membership. Sure, it costs money to go, but I buy a membership, which saves me a lot more money. But when I look at other people when they go somewhere, I got nothing against bingo players. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I have fun teasing them guys on the boat. But anyway, going back to them, and finally I asked them, how many times a week do you go to town? And they said, to go bingo. And they never know. None of them said anything. They said, I go about 2 or 3 times a week. What? Really? What do you spend? About 50, 60 bucks? They just didn't say nothing. So I said, more? I said, yeah. Finally, one of them said, yeah. I said, how much do you actually spend? They said about 200 bucks each time they go to bingo. And I thought to myself, wow, that's almost to fill up your fridge when you go. This is just in my thinking. I'm in my head thinking 200 bucks could almost fill up my freezer. 200 bucks could almost fill up my my little pantry that I made for myself downstairs. And a couple other extra things like cookies, and when the kids come around, and I never said nothing. And then finally one day I'm thinking about them, and I said, "Why don't you guys do what they used to do?" I said, "Remember when they used to have Achievement Day here on the island? This was in the Achievement Day was around the Thanksgiving weekend, and people would make things out of nothing, like what my good friend Renee said. They made things out of nothing, and they made them look beautiful. And what they would do with those, that they put them on display. I'd walk around as kids. We used to walk around and look at all the stuff that they made. Oh, so some beautiful bird houses, different things that was useful. Well, you may not think a birdhouse is useful, but it is actually useful
Mm-hmm.
because you're sharing what you have with those birds.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is, crumbs or bread, little bread pieces of bread and stuff like that. They're very appreciative with that. Those birds are very appreciative of those things. I remember my Peggy used to hang out a bird feeder outside, two of them. Always used to have a lot. Look at the birds, huh? She'd say. Go downstairs, and sure enough, as soon as I got to the window, they'd all fly away. It's like, oh, who's that monster guy? But she was so happy to see those birds there. She was so happy. And then I think about that, and I think about a lot of the people that kind of waste money. Now, again, I got no disrespect. No disrespect. Don't take it personal. But a lot of the money that's being spent can be spent, buying what it is you need. Because I learned that when I was younger. They bought what they needed, what they had to have for the winter months here on the island. Like I remember telling some of you guys about the story of how I live on the island during the winter time, how we had to cross the ice. When the ice was good, of course. And even before the boat stopped for the winter, they'd be bringing these big bags of flowers in. Flour. Big bags of flour, and that they'd store it. And then baking powder. Of course, they'd buy a bunch of lard as well. That beautiful, the old butter that we used to have. lard. Yeah, lard. And they'd buy that in containers.
Yeah.
Remember those big containers? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they those are the things that the main things were those. But what they also bought is one of the main things that they used to have are those white beans.
Yeah.
They'd buy the big bag of white beans, Then they'd buy the salt pork. They'd buy meat that would last for a while. Mind you, meat was very precious back then because it was hard to get sometimes because of the money that my parents they had to work together to provide.
Mm-hmm.
And then those things, and then I remember all that stuff. That's how I do things now, from the things that they did, bringing food into the house for the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm a little low on food, so I have to go and do my big shop. And but I buy the things that are going to be necessary for me to survive. But I also buy extra because I have three daughters that are going to be living on the island. My two older ones and my youngest daughter who's living with me now. So I have to buy extra because sometimes they run out too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dad, you got any got any hamburger that I can have? Yeah, I got some. Come on over. Next thing you know, they're going out with a shopping bag full of stuff. I'm the grocery store.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't mind.
Oh.
Because for me, as being alone now, when I become alone again, I won't be eating much as I normally would when my wife was still with me. Well, she's still with me technically, spiritually, but when she was here physically. we'd cheat out, we'd make dinner the last, we'd make extra. So next day we'd have that left over. And it keep going like that. That's the way it was growing up. Keeping your leftovers. Keeping your leftovers because those leftovers were great, eh? Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that lard I was just talking about, when I was younger, I used to eat potato sandwiches with that lard. But lard, I put lard on my bread or my scone, whatever I had.
Yep.
And then I cut up a potato, a leftover potato, put it on there, a little bit of onion, salt, and pepper. That was my meal.
Yeah.
And today I do the same thing. Today I don't use lard though. I use butter. Yeah. And don't put it in my hair anymore. Eh? Look at that cool guy with lard in his hair. But then the bacon grease. Oh, the bacon grease. They used to save that. They used to sell big jars of it, right?
Yeah.
And then if they ran out of lard, that's what they used to eat up their food. And oh man, you taste some kind. You have some food with bacon grease, leftover bacon grease. It's going to really taste really different from the first time you made it using bacon grease. Like for me, when I fry my potatoes, I use bacon grease. If I have it, and if I have eggs, I put a little bit of bacon grease in there and fry up my egg with that. And then sometimes when I feel like it, I'll melt some bacon grease and put it on my potatoes for supper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm hungry. I'll see you later. I'm going to eat. And but again, this is what I learned growing up. This is what I saw them do. They'd buy the things that they needed for the winter, because over here in the wintertime it was harsh. It was difficult, and I think they only went to town probably every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And again, that card that Renee was talking about, I remember they had to go to the band office here and get a permission slip to leave the island.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I didn't know anything about that growing up. It's not until I got older that I found out about them. Yeah. You got to put your name down and an agent or sign it just to go to town and get groceries for the families. That's the way we were treated. Like herds of cattle, I said one time. The man, that guy that we were talking to did not like that at all. But we were telling the truth.
Yeah.
We were telling the truth. Get herded into a boat and you go across, but you have to have that piece of paper in your hand. But going back to the food though, the food, my mom would make food out of anything.
Yeah.
And it's a big meal.
Yeah.
You got leftovers, my mom we had, what was that? Roast beef one time. And she made gravy out of that with boiled potatoes and scone.
Yeah. You use
man.
Use that water.
Oh yeah, exactly, eh? And those are the things I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when my wife was with me, that's what we used to do, keep our leftovers. She'd say, "Hon, do you think we got enough here for tomorrow's meal?" I'd look in there. I think so. I said, "If we need more, we'll just cook up something else." Oh, okay. That's what we do. Put it in the fridge, wrap it up, put it in the fridge. What's for supper, hon? Leftovers. She'd yell at me. Of course, I'd get the pots on. And this was one of my roles as being a man with my wife, is that she'd be tired and she'd be in our bedroom here, and want me to get supper? She said, "Yeah, okay. What do we have?" Then she'd yell down, "We'll just have the leftovers from last night." Okay, and that's what I'd cook. And then sometimes I'd take her meal up to her, so have a supper in bed. So we'd sit there while have supper together in bed and watch TV. And what the leftovers are probably the best things.
Yeah.
And I remember she used to make this what they called witch's brew. Don't worry, she wasn't a witch. Or anything. She was not a witch. Hey, she used to make this thing called witch's brew. It was I can't remember what she put all in it: macaroni, hamburg, a couple other things, and she'd cook that, and that's what we'd have. And she'd put cheese on the top of it, and that's what was our supper. Oh, that was great! I really loved that. I tried to duplicate her stuffing one time. I could not figure that out, no matter how hard I tried. Even the girls can't do it. And I thought to myself, maybe it wasn't meant for us to have her stuffing.
Um,
And and but again, we go back to the times when we look at that life, look at that life, because we were, according to our elders, we are very observant people. All nations across Turtle Island were very observant because
yes.
they would sit and look and watch what everybody did. This was when the times were good, when everybody helped each other. They looked out for each other. Like a family didn't have much. Well, a couple of the people from the communities would go to the house and deliver some food for them to last them till the next payday.
Mhm.
And those are the things I observed growing up. Those are the remember whens. And and then my wife and I, my wife and I got married, we'd go to her mom's, spend a weekend with her, and she'd make this soup. Um, what's that meat called? Brisket? Is it brisket? Yeah, brisket. Throw it in the pot. And you look in the pot, and it didn't really look like much. Because, I was a big eater. I like eating. But, when we went there was her mom, uh, Peggy, myself, my two girls, actually four girls, and then the in-laws would come for supper with that little bit of soup. But you know what? That little bit of soup went a long way because they added extra little things to the dinner table. My wife Peggy would make the scone, she'd make the soup, and then we'd get the tea going, and that was a meal in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It provided for all those because my wife grew up in a big family. My mother-in-law, her mom knew exactly what to cook, how to cook it, and how much was needed, so there was no waste.
Mhm.
I remember, I remember we went to visit there one time, and her mom was getting up in aging. This is probably a couple of years before she passed away, I think. And we went there one time for the weekend. Went to visit her, and then Peggy said, "I gotta go. I'm going to town to get some cheese, hon. We're going to have some what do you call that? That flat noodle stuff. Um,
Lasagna.
that's it, lasagna. Lasagna. I'm going to go to town and get some cheese. Okay. Tell mom when she wakes up. Okay." Off she went. So I'm busy doing something. I can't remember what I was doing in the kitchen. Oh, I know. I think I was doing dishes or something like that. And then she wakes up, she comes out, and she says to me, she says, "Where's Peggy?" I said, "She's gone to town to get some cheese." And then she looks at me, she says, "Why do I have to say please?" Oh my God. Because she was hard of hearing, right? She couldn't hear me right. So she thought that I said, "You have to say please." She got to get town to get some cheese. So I went over to her, took her pencil and her paper, and I wrote down, "Peggy's gone to town to get some cheese." She looks at the paper that looks at me, and she just goes burst out laughing. Oh man, did I ever laugh? So I told Peggy about that when she got. Oh God, I said, "Your mom is deaf." I said, "I know she is." I said, "You want to wonder what?" I told her what I said. And then she just burst out laughing as well. So, again, like I said, when our elders, especially our old folks, when they get to that point where they can't hear, this modern technological pencils and pens and paper work fine when you write them. What you got to say to them, eh? Because you don't want to really over yell at them, and you got to be
No.
loud enough so they hear you, right? You don't want them to think you're yelling at them, so you got to know what to, Again, that's where that ingenuity comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to write things down, and then going back to the looking after your own family, knowing how to spend it, I think is what I learned growing up. Knowing what to do, not what to get, what I needed. Don't get what you don't need. Get the things that you need first, and then get the things that you might not want to get later on. For me, when I get stuff, I usually first things I go for is the meat, the eggs, and the vegetables. That's what I get. And then if I look in my cart, it looks empty, then I'm go back to get cookies, desserts for the grandchildren when they come over. I got a lot of desserts downstairs for them. Mind you, it's not good, but it's something for them, something to snack. And especially when my grandson comes along, he's not a potato man. He likes his Igos, those little drinks. He likes those Igos. Papa, get me Igo. So you go get it. No, you go get it. So I get up, go get it. Then he's happy. He sits with me for a while, and then he disappears and goes and plays. But then he comes back in, he looks at me, he says, "Watching TV, Papa?" I said, "Yeah." Then he waves and he says, "I'll see you after." Then he goes back downstairs, comes and looks after his papa. And then that's the beauty of young people like that. You treat these young ones, the children, really nice, especially when you look after them and you scold the parents for yelling at your grandchildren. They look up to you that way. And back in the days, when I got scolded, I had nobody to back me up. I really didn't. I just kind of had to take the punishment and move on, right? And growing up, I like when Renee was talking about that one toy. I remember that we didn't get much either when we were growing up. And we used to have, my mom used to buy get these bags, those little brown, they're like lunch bags. And they used to fill those up with, a tangerine, an orange, an apple, and those beautiful old candies. Remember those old candies?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could find those. I know that they're around there somewhere. I think they find them in
McCormick,
something like that. Yeah, something like that. But they're all different colors, shapes, and they taste different. All this other one, and we used to have those. But what I really remember the most, and I think I don't know if I ever told anybody this, is that the wintertime, especially around Christmas, after Christmas was over, we'd have what we call Little Christmas. We'd have a celebration of a different Christmas, where the parents would save a gift each from Christmas. And what they would do with those gifts is they would take them to the old hall here in our community. And in each corner of the old hall used to be a stage there, and that's where they put the two biggest trees they could find. They'd go in the bush. The men would go in the bush, get these big trees, and everybody would be decorating those trees. And then even before that, they would actually. We had cows here at one time. And what they would do, probably maybe a couple of weeks before that little Christmas, they would kill one. Take one, pick one out, and then that's the one we would eat. And my dad would send me up with a container. What he would be asking for was some of that liver from that cow, fresh liver. I'd go up and they'd yell, "Who wants liver?" I said, "My dad wants some. I got a pan." "Okay, bring it over, Neil." "All right, take it over." And then one day, they said, "Anybody want a piece of heart?" I thought maybe my dad would like this. My mom, "Okay, I'll take I'll take a piece." It was a big chunk like this, about that size. If you could see my eyes, that's how big it was. But there was a big heart, right? A big cow has big heart. Of course, it needs a big heart to move all that bulk around, right? But anyway, so I go down and I take that liver. That's the first thing I do. I take that liver because that's what they told us. Take this home right away. Take this home right away. And we listened to the old guys telling us to do that. So I'd rush home. And then the guys would say, "You coming back up?" "Yeah, I'll be back up." "Okay." So off I go home. Take the liver and that piece of heart home. And my dad would, "You liver, you got me to go out." "Oh," he'd say. "He's okay," he'd say. And "Oh, I'm going back up." So I'd put my coat back on, head back up, and watch how they used to do all that. And they'd show us exactly where to cut. And once everything was done, once we'd go back up and they'd start doing what it is they had to do with it. But when the dinner came, that little Christmas provided a big meal. It was a community feast. Everybody came to this. The upstairs hall, but that little Christmas part where the trees were put up and the gifts were put underneath there. And of course, that was one of the best things that ever happened. And of course, we'd get another bag of candies from Santa. That was the UC Women, the United Church Women's Group.
Oh yeah.
They had here on the island. They were the ones that put all this together, all those candies and little socks and little woolen mitts, that kind. And that's what we'd get there. But then we would also get presents that were left over from the Christmas. That's on January the 6th. We'd have that celebration. And once that was all over with, then everything would be put away, tables would be brought up, and everything would be set up. And then we'd have our meal upstairs, downstairs. Oh man, we could eat forever. And so those are the things that I remember about growing up at Christmas time, winter time, and everybody, and then everything quietened down. There was hardly any movement. Mind you, the men would have to go to work in the wintertime for the logs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the logging was over, then everything stopped. But they the older folks would say, this is the time when everything sleeps. This is a time to rest. You've done your work for the spring, summer, and fall. This is where all the animals are looking, and they're sleeping as well, the ones that have to sleep or hibernate. And the trees are sleeping, they're resting now. And they, when I started learning more about that type of our culture, I began to understand it. Like Renee said, my friend Renee said that, everything knows what's going on, everything, because they still know the direction. They still know that directive that they got from Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the beautiful part about that is that if they know their direction still, the animals and the plant life, the plant kingdom, then why is it that we don't know ours? Some of us. Why is it that we don't know some of our directions that we were given at that time? And I think again, like I said at the very beginning, it has to do with the modern technological devices that we carry. I think it has a lot to do with that. But there's another one thing too that caught my attention when my friend was talking that about the circle, the family circle. And back in those days, we would get yelled at by some other parents,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd go home and tell on them. And you know what, my mom or my dad they'd say, "We this," and that, but in our language, it means good for you. You shouldn't have done that. And I never thought about it till I got older to understand that. It took a whole community to look after a family. And that was us, that family circle. Because another time when I helped a lady one time, she lost somebody. And I told her, I said, that chair that's empty, I said, that chair will be filled later. Somebody's coming. A couple of years later, she called me. She said that her daughter got married and they're expecting a baby. And then right away she says, "How did you know that?" I was told that same story by elders about people missing people in the family, right?
Mhm.
So that circle closes in it, and then it becomes a circle again, because that spirit of that person who left is sending somebody else to replace him or her there at that chair. And so those are the things that I remember, right? I remember growing. I don't remember growing up, but I remember getting old. Because at my age, next year, again, like I said, I've been sober for a while, and 2023, I'll be celebrating my 40th year of sobriety, and I'll probably be, I think I'll be 74 at that time when I get to that 40. They wanted me, my wife, my wife and I were going to celebrate 50 years of sobriety, but that's coming. That's a later time for that one. I still got to wait till I get there, though. But anyway, so yeah, I have a good. I believe in our life. I believe in that life that we have been given. That this life is, again, like I said, it's not ours. We were sent here to do tasks, and that was to look after each other, to look after Mother Earth, to look after children if we had to. Those are the tasks. We got so many tasks. And then when somebody passes away in our culture, we tell in that story, say, for somebody passes away, the message to the person that's leaving to the spirit world is, whatever task you did not complete, we will complete them for you, is what that spirit is told. So the spirit can go to that place. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I'm going to say good night. Don't forget, I got calendars for sale. I'm kidding. No calendars for sale.
And you gotta have everybody wanting calendars now.
Like I don't
No
have enough. January is Fireman Month.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh man, it's
so
always a
wonderful.
pleasure, ladies. It's always a pleasure.
So wonderful.
So nice. So nice to hear you guys. And I had my lemon ginger tea as I'm listening to a lot of lessons of life that you've had, and both of you really, the lessons of love. And Neil, I had a tear in my eye when you had talked about at the very beginning, when your wife had passed on to the spirit world, and you got on your knees and you asked Creator if you when you get there, you're going to marry her all over again. And that's really a true testament of love. I had tears in my eyes when I was crying, and I was just kind of thinking, like, wow, you really had a love story with your wife. And and it's such a beautiful testament to when we are healthy and we're doing our roles as men and women, that what a truly beautiful life that we all have and we all can have. And when we look after each other, and when the community comes together with that, we used to call that soup back home stone soup.
Yeah.
That it was just, as long as somebody brought the meat, somebody else brought the potatoes, and you just kept on adding to it. And and having those meals of leftovers. And my sister too, she can whip up a gourmet meal with just hamburger, and and have those wonderful meals and all these things. Like, I was just remembering all my childhood pieces of kicking the can and getting together and playing Red Rover, right, Grandma Renee? Like, we would have so many kids in the neighborhood that you would be able to play Red Rover, or have a really good baseball game, because there'd be so many kids in the neighborhood to play baseball. So this is such a beautiful gift. Such a beautiful gift of remembering, and especially around this time when we're getting together with our families.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When we were young as well, too. Now that I remember what I wanted to say about this game,
You got him going.
Red Rover, and then of course the what was that other one, Renee?
Ante over.
That's the one. Yeah, those games we played. But we also had a game that we really played probably every night in the summertime, and that's what we call kokosh ball, which means pig ball. You got a ball probably about this size, And then you'd have, I don't know how many batters you'd have, but you'd have one swing at that ball. And if and then if you hit the ball and somebody catches it, you're out, right? And we drew lines, about 100 yards apart, and that's how far we run.
Yeah. We did
And
that
then,
too.
And then, but the only problem is if they didn't catch the ball and you were running, they threw the ball at you. Boy, they'd hit you with that thing. Your team was out, right? Oh, we used to have fun with that. We wanted to do it.
I think that's the one, Sherry, that Kevin Sandy did that day at the center, right? I think that's what it was. I had, I have to admit that my family is eating dinner right now because I was watching the two of you and I was like taking my time and cooking this and I was trying new recipes and they're like, Mom, when are we eating? I was like, oh no, go eat now. I have to say goodbye now. Say goodnight to everyone. What wonderful memories. When you were talking about Christmas and all of those, the hard times and like I remember and we laugh about them now.
Yeah.
We get together with my siblings and those hard times become funny. And the only one that really doesn't find it funny is my mom. She's like, what do you mean? One year she wrapped everyone's presents in the same gift wrap.
My mom left a price tag on them.
Right? Yeah, so fun, like so great.
My buddy and I lost a couple of presents. We found them a
week after Christmas.
A couple of weeks after Christmas, yeah.
So funny. I remember my uncle fell into the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve and we were all in bed. And so when we woke up in the morning, the Christmas tree was tied to the wall, like nailed in. It wasn't even lined up. Eh? And I was like, Santa must have fell into the tree last night. Oh, it was so wonderful. This visit was really great. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, we just want to bring hope and courage and to get through, and you'll be able to laugh like we are doing right now. And when you get together with your siblings, it wasn't poor times. It was good times.
Right?
I'm gonna do a song for everybody.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do a traveling song for you. And it's not a goodbye song or anything, but I want to do a traveling song to end our session. So keep talking. I'll go get my drum.
He fulfilled the yes. I was saying, Neil, sing. You got it. And our body remembers too. That's the other thing. When we get a craving for something, our body remembers to feed our ancestors. So the other day I was hungry. Exactly what he was talking about was hamburger soup.
Oh yeah.
And so I had to make it. And then I was thinking of my uncle. Man, I had 2 bowls, one for me and one for him. I've never done that in a long time. And I was telling my brother, and he says he was thinking of our uncle too at the same time. So what your body remembers. So if you get a craving, it's you're going to feed your family and you'll have a good time and laughter. So let your body enjoy this moment by having something that you grew up with.
Someone messaged me and said, are we going to see them before the end of the year? And part of me was like, oh, we should do like a little interlude between Christmas and New Year's to bring in the new year. So watch for it on Grandmother's Voice if we decide to gather again.
I'm sorry, I don't do interludes. So I'm going to sing a song. Sing a song, a sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. There you go. Have a good night. No. I want to sing the song and just saying, I'll see you later, because the song is just saying Bama P, which means later I will see you again. And because in our language, in our languages, there is no word for goodbye.
Yes.
Because goodbye is permanent. Whereas we say Bama P or later.
Yeah.
And I don't know
how
you would say, hey?
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, exactly. or paths will cross again someday. And I
Yeah.
know they will. You guys out there in Zoom land or Steamboat land, the song is for you as well. Be careful out there. I'm a piggy whopping on. 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 Way oh. Way oh. I'm a piggy whopping on. 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 Way oh. Way oh.
Woo!
And there's a song for everybody. Later, we will see each other again, or later I will see you again. Whichever
I
comes
wanted
first.
to show you. I wanted to show you this before you go. Oh wait, here. Can you see it yet?
No, I can't see nothing. I'm blind in one eye, can't see every other, and I got a limp.
Can you see that?
No.
No,
You can't see it?
no.
Wait, oh, there it is. Is that the candy?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the stuff.
Yep.
That's the stuff.
That's the one.
I
Yeah,
had to
that's
look
the
it
stuff.
up. The old-fashioned candy. My grandma had that one too.
Oh,
I
yeah,
had to
those
look
were
it
good.
up.
We
Oh.
used to love that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been such a lovely evening listening to you guys, and
Renee, I'm
Yeah, you are.
sorry. I keep pushing it, and you're pushing it too.
Well, we know what we're getting in our stockings, right, Neil?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
better sew up the toe end, though, it might fall out.
yeah, you don't
You
want to
better
lose it.
wash.
I actually sew too, you know. I sew. I do, honest engine.
Okay.
Have a good night,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, greetings, salutations, and Happy Hanukkah.
Thanks